Hopefully we have your wheels churning a little bit tonight as you start to think about your money and how best to use it and plan for the future. Dale Smothers is here with RDS Wealth Management. Thank you for spending your time with us this past hour. By the way, last chance to call in if you want to, 615-737-PLUS. What differentiates your group from the rest, do you think?
Good question. I think the biggest differentiator for us is the fact that we are holistic. Now, not to say that there aren't other firms out there, but the majority of the firms that we, let's say, talk to clients that are coming from those firms, let's assume that, they're focused on one thing. So they're focused on just the investments, or maybe they're focused on just the life insurance side, or maybe they're focused on just the protection side. Being able to pull that under one roof is necessary, I think, to be able to have a true, what we would consider a live happy type of retirement. To be able to retire most optimally, you've got to be able to know that all the pieces are talking with one another. So at our firm, we have basically laid out an entire process that we've trademarked called the Retirement Atlas. And that Retirement Atlas, funny story, the reason we call it the Retirement Atlas, it's kind of a play on words, because whenever I was a young boy, I remember my dad had an old blue 1960-something Chevrolet step-side pickup, and he was proud of it. You know, we were raised really poor, and he was just proud of this truck. And I remember the old bench seat, when you pulled it up, it had stuff in the back. And it was like maybe a pistol and some wire pliers and, you know, vice grips, whatever. And an old book that was pretty large size, and I remember as a young child pulling it out and said, "Dad, what is this?" And he said, "Son, that's an atlas. It'll take you anywhere you want to go." And our goal is to be able to take a retiree anywhere they want to go. So when they come in and we talk to them, we personalize this Retirement Atlas covering the 5 key maps that they need. The investment plan is one of them, the income plan is one of them, the tax plan is one of them, the healthcare plan is one of them, and the legacy plan is one of them, which we didn't even really discuss. But who do we want to leave money to? Are there any organizations that we want to make sure we take care of? Is, again, if you pass away, what happens to your spouse? Making sure all of that. So we lay out this entire roadmap, a series of roadmap that we bind together and hand to them, called the Retirement Atlas. What differentiates us, is my opinion, is that process alone. That process, the 5 key areas of retirement, tailor-made to you. You don't get that many places. I do know that we have a mastermind group of advisors from around the country, about 15 to 16 of us, and we're all basically saying, hey, this is the right way to build a retirement plan. But the nearest one from here is pretty good distance. So I feel really safe in saying that differentiates us from a lot of the different firms out there. Again, keeping your investments separate from the healthcare plan, or keeping your investments separate from the tax plan, especially the tax plan, those two alone, if those are totally separate, you've got your CPA doing your taxes, not against CPAs. I think it's extremely important to do the CPA work, right? We don't prep taxes. What we do is we put a plan together for paying little tax as possible over the next 20 or 30 years. The CPA's job is to make sure you pay as little tax this year. They're a scorekeeper. We're a planner. We work in conjunction with them to make sure that you have ultimately a smaller tax bill over retirement.
That makes a lot of sense. And what would you say to the person sitting out there, whether they are a millionaire already or just chipping away at that investment? What is your advice during this extremely volatile time?
So at this point, again, depending on where you are, so that's a wide brush, but I would say if you're chipping away, keep chipping away. If you're just starting, and I'll even say it to you, listen, if you're 20 years from retirement, now is the time to be purchasing good, strong stocks, good, strong growth funds. In the investment world today is much easier than our fathers and our grandfathers. You can buy SPY. That one ticker alone puts you in 500 different stocks with as little as 50 bucks. That's an amazing place to put some money for long-term growth. You're banking on the USA, right? I mean, that's literally what you're doing with that one ticker, SPY. Now, if you're 5 years from retirement or fewer, even if you're a year or 2 from retirement, you've got to be safeguarding your income. You've got to be taking the income that you have right now in mind and figuring out how can we match that income going forward. I'll tell you this, the first 5 years of your retirement journey, after you have retired, the first 5 years are the most volatile, and they will set your track for the next 25 years. The first 5 are the most important due to a thing called sequence of returns risk, which we can get into great detail about. If that is you, if you're 5 years or less from retirement, and you have any fear at all about what kind of income you're going to be generating, or you don't have a well-written plan, get in touch with someone who can help you. My firm would love to. Again, we serve South Central Kentucky, North Central Tennessee. We love the Nashville area. My firm, we would be happy to sit down and give you a second opinion. We would be a second set of eyes on what you're already doing, or perhaps your first stop. 270-600-PLANS, how you can get in touch with us. We would love to sit down and talk to you. If you'd like to follow us a little bit more, looking up the Retirement Matters podcast, the Retirement Matters podcast on Apple Podcasts, be a good way for you to be able to follow us and see a little bit more about our philosophy. Again, cash protection and risk, that's what we're going to be preaching. You got to have money in all 3 of those things to make this thing work. And then ultimately, it's not about how much you make in the market, it's about how much you can keep. So a good tax plan is just as important.
It all goes together.
Yes,
but you
ma'am.
were telling me, I'm a big podcast listener. It's what I do on my way to and from work to beat this Nashville traffic.
Right.
But you were telling me it's not just all investment talk.
Right,
You cover a whole gamut of things.
So good. Retirement's not all about investing. Retirement's not all about the plan. Retirement's not all about the numbers. If it was all about the numbers, this would be a boring job. We love helping our clients spend more money, more time on and with the people they care about, less time worrying about the stock market. Get your mind off the stock market. If you're retired and you are still worried about the stock market, you need to call somebody. Call us. We'd love to talk to you. But it's more about living happy. This podcast is more about living happy. How can we truly help you? Now, on the podcast, we have every weekend's radio show pushed to the podcast. Predominantly, that's talking about the market. But then whenever we have a guest in, we're talking about how to help you live happy. We just had a pastor on from the Nashville area. He has just went through some terrible times in his life, and that's set to drop, I think, this Friday, if I'm not mistaken, that particular podcast. It's going to be a great podcast. We've got people like Charles Payne that are coming on the podcast that, nationally recognized stock market. It's a host of different types of guests. As a matter of fact, we'd open it up to you if you'd be interested in coming on.
Well, sure would.
Why not?
I would like that.
Yeah,
okay,
that would be great.
cool.
Yes,
My first podcast appearance.
Why not?
Thank you for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We've learned a lot. All right.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. When we come back, I will tell you what's on tap for the rest of the week. Stay with us.